Hi again. Thank you so much for coming to our second episode of Between the Spaces. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation on housing. To my far right, I have Kola. To my immediate right, Obina. And then to my left, I have Ebitu. The first conversation that we're going to have is, are Lagos properties overvalued? Let's go. Kola, please take it.
From a developer's point of
Yes.
view, it's never overvalued.
What?
Why would you say it's overvalued? No, it's not. I think it's a function of the environment we find ourselves.
Okay.
Yes, if you think about, by the time you extrapolate, what's the value of these properties in dollars, right? I don't think that's the issue. For me, the question really should be, are you getting enough for the prices of, for the price of what we're producing or giving? So infrastructure and things like that.
Correct.
I take a property in Banana, which you stay in. $1 million for a property that, what are you getting? Right?
Correct.
And if I look at it from that point of view, I might say yes, it's overvalued. Maybe I'm overpaying for the property in Banana, and I'm not getting all the service or the amenities I should get for an equal property in a different jurisdiction around the world. However, considering our local environment, right, we all know what it involves to build a Banana. And it's not just the construction, right? We know what the developers would have gone through to build that and, then demand. The reason why that kind of environment is that price is because you have too many people looking for good properties, secure properties, and it's just very few that are available. So obviously, the prices
goes up.
Like saying, we all know, things like inflation and building material prices, what developers go through, there's no way at the end of all that a property, whether it's a home or land, will come out cheaper than what the supposed affordable home price is supposed to be. I think, so we are discussing, I think we are going to discuss income in relation to house prices to then determine whether it might be, in quotes, overvalued.
Undervalued. What do you think?
It's a matter of perception. Sometimes if you use are they overvalued, that might someone say that's a socialist approach to a capitalist, a pure capitalist discussion. I mean, they are overvalued if nobody is buying. They are properly valued if people are buying.
How so?
I mean, there was a time 6 years ago when there were lots of empty apartments on Alexandria and Co. At that point, it was overvalued, and the bubble burst and things calmed down. Right now, you won't find that quantum of low occupancy vacancies as much. So, what has sought its level, as it were. So, I don't think they're overvalued. I think people are buying up properties at the price that people are bringing to the market. So people are willing to pay for it, and it's properly valued. We can say it's overvaluation when you compare it vis-a-vis the vacancy rates. Are they trending up? Are they trending down? Right now, they're not trending up. So I won't say they're overvalued. I would rather pivot to is there more value to be created? Because if the valuation is proper, then people will need more of those products. But are people able to deliver those products in time, given where we are in the economy in terms of interest rates, in terms of inflation, all those other things? Because if we're unable to deliver the incentive for the developer to continue to bring those products to the market
At a good price.
Then it will not be overvaluation. The price will keep going up. People will keep buying it, but then if the price point gets to the point whereby it can't reach everybody, and then you now begin to talk about the social impact of housing. So the more those exogenous factors that determine the price template for a developer keep moving in a direction that is not suitable, the less the ability of us, society, to achieve housing for all.
Yeah.
But yep, if granite moves up and you have to borrow money from the bank at 30%, I mean, somebody has to pay that cost, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I mean, another aspect of, and I'm happy you brought up the thing of $1 million. Another aspect of buying a property in Nigeria for like $1 million is that is it possible to exit that? Is it possible for it to go higher? Is there, how rich is the secondary market opportunities for those kinds of properties? I mean, if we say it's valued appropriately or in the context of Nigeria, and then I think it's also worth asking that question too, because I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. In
I
terms of the
Why?
secondary market
Why?
exit, I always ask myself that, okay, if we buy a property for like $1 million, finished property now, not land. If I buy a finished property for like $1 million, is it possible to exit for $1.5 million or $2 million?
I think so. To answer that question, I think you can sell, and I've seen it. Um, biggest risk in Nigeria or in real estate is, would this developer deliver? There's always going to be people with $1 million in this market, right? But the biggest fear is, if I give this guy my $1 million, will they deliver? So the minute you deliver, the value of that property has gone up. You get another person that will pay you that money because there's something now standing. And you and I know that the people that are buying this money, it's not like they're looking for mortgage or anything. They have the cash. They want to exchange it for a good, an asset right there. They're not looking for any installment plan. So the minute that property is delivered, you would always, and I've seen it, and you can see properties in Ikoyi, number 4. I know what people paid for it. I know what's in the secondary market. However, here's the risk in those properties, I think. Would the subsequent buyer pay dollars for it?
That's the question.
That's the,
And
and we've
is he
seen
willing to
this
pay more?
we've seen it, so maybe years later, right? So I've seen this in a development in Ikoyi. They sold it in dollars. 10 years later, it's now being naira because it's not a new building anymore.
Exactly.
Everybody has moved to the new builds.
Exactly.
So it's now a question of when you as the investor get in and get out. So you have to be very cognizant of that issue.
So in a way, we're kind of saying the same thing. Is that if I bought it for EFCC purposes, to the naira equivalent of $1 million,
Okay.
as of when you bought it. So let's say I bought it for like $1 million in year 1. Is it possible to exit for $1.5 or $2 million in year 5?
So
Let's say an apartment.
Let's go back to Naira, because it will be easier to have this discussion without introducing the Naira devaluation when you want to compare returns in a Naira-based asset. So if you're, let's go as high as $1 billion, even $2 billion Naira, to buy a property in the high end of the market, be it premium apartment or so on, you can exit higher. You can. Property assets generally retain value in this country because, again, it's cash pots. Most sellers are either fluid, rarely under distress to slash prices, and even when they are, they would rather meet market rate for some reason. I mean, it's that retentive. But you can exit higher as far as the value proposition is there for the property. Now, even when the value proposition is not there, as Obina said, anything that you are selling in real estate and otherwise, you put it in the market, state your price, and you find a willing buyer, valuation has been so-called met. So, and that will be the case with $1 billion, with $2 billion. We've seen it happen with more. In fact, there was not to boast, we haven't actually closed. We didn't close any transaction at that level, but apparently somebody bought something at $6 billion, still flipped it at $9 billion in a short period, and
It's like an apartment, a house, or land.
And
It's always easier if it's land. That one is easier.
I think the interesting about the conversation is that 20 years ago we used to discuss property prices in dollars.
yes.
Over the years, we're now discussing property prices in dollars. Reason is because it is because of the inflation rates.
Yeah.
And people want to be able to say it's worth 1 million this year. You can relate to it.
adjust it.
Yeah.
But given where the inflation is going, the question is, if you were to do an inflation adjusted return profile on that your investment, are you making money? That's question one. Question two, if you were to do a risk adjusted profile on that same return, are you making money? If you take those two together, that's part of the reason why the prices are going up.
Yeah.
So anybody coming to buy from you, depending on their risk appetite to all those issues, you can now make a pitch and they will take it. So I know of people that are doing transactions on the best side of the and they want to, some European investors want to do some tourist stuff, and they would rather not get involved in sorting out all the land issues. Some smart guy will come and meet another person and say, you know what, I can do the survey. We'll do the survey for you, and the family agrees, and they do all that stuff, and the guy perfects the title in a transaction everything and takes it to the investor, and they pick and buy, but they don't want to get all involved in all that local stuff. So that's same thing applies to good. The people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and go and get that land documentation out, and they're going to take the cream to profit.
Yeah.
When they're ready, those that are not able to do that will pay a premium for the stress of putting that idea into brick and mortar where people can live, because the basic things we need as human beings, food, shelter,
Clothing.
shelter will always be needed. And so far as the land mass in Lagos is not increasing, the demand will always be going up. If you go to mega cities like New York, London and co, people are no longer buying 1,000 square meters of space just to build bungalows. They are stacking it up.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same is happening to Lagos.
So we are going to get to that stage where
I think we're already there.
I think we're there. I think we're there.
if someone told you 15 years ago that driving down Bodilon, you will see 15 stories and a car park hanging on the third floor. You're like, no. Now, if you pass that place yesterday night, even when they open the gates, you now catch a glimpse of Ella of Lexus entry. They now close it. Those boys are. So yes, but we're getting to that point. There's also a transition where, as we get older, we're asking ourselves, do we need to stay in a 5-bedroom house on 800 square meters of space,
or do we need to own?
Yeah, own. Or go and you and Madam are in a 3-bed apartment in Ikoyi. So there's also the needs of the people that will buy from that are also evolving. So as they evolve, you're going to see apartments coming up priced at the same price point as properly built houses in Lekki 1, because the needs of those people are also changing. So there's a lot,
Let me help you interpret that. Like Nigeria nowadays, I always say that before we used to buy a whole tuber of yam. Between the 4 of us here, we can buy one. But before you say one tuber. So that's needs have changed. So we have to just adjust to that.
So in summary, we are saying the properties are not overvalued. The properties are reflective of the value of the pricing.
I agree with that.
Yes. So no, wait. And to just add to that, I think the values, the pricing. Let me not use the word value. The pricing of properties is not overpriced, because, as we've reiterated, the cost and the cost of delivering that property is not. It's reflected in that price. Then we can talk about value vis-a-vis income.
Yes.
Because when you're talking about value, it's really about relative to the prospect for that property. And while in our market here, income hasn't grown. Everywhere in the world, income grows last behind inflation. We've just increased the minimum wage to 70,000. So we can use that as our median income for the country too.
How much is that in dollars again?
Like 50.
50, right?
About $50. Yeah, the current rate.
Per month.
Per month.
$50.
Now, as far as let's even look at Lagos, we can double that income for Lagos' sake. Let's say median/average would be 100,000. Yes. And say, what's our average home price in Lagos?
20 million?
Is a good enough number to do the assessment. So someone earning 100,000 a year cannot afford a 20 million home with any mortgage that is available now in our market. So the question now becomes, when you say overvalued, his income can't reach it. Therefore, is he overvalued as a buyer? Yes. Is he overvalued as a leaser? No. I'm sorry, this
As
is
a
long
tenant.
As a tenant.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. So you're looking at their income vis-a-vis the property values,
Yes.
and you're saying that the income is too low. The median income is
The
low,
median
and
income is
but that
too low
doesn't
for
factor
median.
in mortgages and things like that, right? Because it's not like you would spend. Ideally,
Yes,
you should have a
ideally.
mortgage and everything. So if you're looking at it from that point of view, yes,
Yeah.
it's out of reach. But don't forget that most Lagos is a peculiar matter, right? Small landmass. Everybody, lack of infrastructure or good infrastructure that can spread people out. So everybody is squeezing
cramped.
into
Yes.
Correct.
this little area, right? So little area, everybody wants there. Prices are going up, yes, but and then beauty of real estate is that for me, value is also based on what people can pay for it, based on price or rent. Prices are going up, people are paying more rent, right? So
Exactly.
real estate, it adjusts itself. So that's the
Yes.
beauty. So it's not. So that's why I will still say it's not overvalued. But I hear you very well.
And let me
If
correct
you're looking at
myself.
it, yeah.
But we're talking about two different things here.
Yes, I'm just
trying
trying
to advance our
No,
conversation.
he's looking at it from the income point of view,
Okay, so-
which makes a lot of sense. A very good way to
But
look at it.
You cannot be asking, people that are on the upper middle class. I mean, well, no, the rich guys, whether something is affordable or not. That's not the question. When it comes to affordability, you're talking of the lower middle income, those guys downwards. Is it affordable? What is the track to owning your own? Because the beauty of after people settle down, they marry and they get to when are we gonna have our own home, right? And for me, the biggest challenge is that we are yet to see enough innovative solutions around long-term finance.
Don't worry.
Long-term finance.
I'm coming
Even
to
actually,
affordable
before you go
housing.
there, you see, why must we all own homes?
That's what I was going to ask.
Do you understand?
We're looking
Why?
at a growing
It's
rental
because we all Africans, right? My father said I should own my house, right? That's
but
why.
even Americans
I think
want to.
it's changing.
It's changing.
It's changing.
It's changing. But the question is, it's certainly changing that there are less as far as population, less owners than renters. Renters are much more.
Of
And
course.
as long
Correct.
as the incomes
So,
keep
so
lagging,
the
capital
fundamental
growth.
reason why we must own homes is that that's the foundation for economic development. And let me explain why. The stock of wealth of any individual is tied in your assets. Now, if you're a business owner, obviously you have a business in the business. If you're working for someone and you're earning a salary, the only asset you have is your home. Now, if you have a home, and because it's real estate, we all know that property valuation will always trend up. You hardly go until they made a natural disaster. Then that home is your store of value, which you can cash out or cash anyway. Most of the developed economies, their real estate sector is, aside from their financial sector and banking, the real estate sector is where the store of value is trapped, which is why the Chinese guy got spooked when that company had issues. The collateral debt obligation in the US think collateral come out to pay because everybody was that need of I can always do a second mortgage, a third financing. People now started stacking up the thing to the extent that it didn't make sense anymore. It didn't collapse. So, but if we need to develop our economy, the more people own the homes, the more our GDP per capita will increase. Because you can own a home of 20 million in 3 years' time is worth 30 million. You can tell the bank, I need 10 million naira, and they will give you because the value still has some value there. You can come to the bank and say, I need another 10. You can take 30 million over time on that property. So far as
this is where this problem of mortgage markets comes in. So I agree with everything you said. We need to. It's ideal for most people to own their home because our interest rate is at a rate that is unsustainable. A mortgage that, if you get a mortgage for a home that's worth even 20 million and you are financing 70% of that, At our current interest rate, you will pay 3 times that home price
It doesn't make
in
sense.
10 years. So it doesn't make sense. And you won't even catch up if income stays the same way it is. So I do agree entirely with your assessment. Now, in those countries, they have bondified assets in the sense that they are mortgaged assets, so they can influence it financially. With mortgaged assets, you are financing the owner to own it and operate it, so to speak. We don't have that here. We don't have a way to bondify an asset. If you own 1,000 square meters in the best place like Ikoyi now, and you want to raise finance on the back of it, let's say you had a house on it and you wanted to raise finance, you'd still go to a commercial bank and they'll still give you a commercial loan. And the mortgage bank will give you a mortgage loan which is more or less the same as the commercial loan.
True.
So this is where we are failing home ownership as far as the financing and the fact that we cannot bondify it. Now, to bondify it is that this is a registered asset with land registry or any of the federal ones that the asset may be related to. Then, if there's a market that existed, which would be an NSE bond market or something, with sovereign guarantees on the asset, i.e., it is backed by Federal Mortgage Bank, which would be akin to Freddie Mae or Fannie, then anybody with that asset can go and float a bond in that market and say, I want to raise finance for this asset, and this is what I want to do with it. However, if it defaults, it's still a collateralized debt asset. This is what the US had. Now, it's not to say that we shouldn't put controls to make sure such things don't get abused, because obviously once people pull money from those bonds, the carrier of the bond will still pick up the assets and, but that's the way to finance.
But guys, you see, my own thing is, look, I don't know, I don't have the solution, but I don't think the solution necessarily comes from what the US did X number of years ago, right? Yes, they've done it, and it's always good to learn from history. But with this kind of population that we have, 200 million people, 80% at this kind of income, there's a huge problem in housing. The government itself, look at the number of units the government is saying that they're delivering. Even a lot of these government policies or programs now, they're delivering houses that most of these people cannot even afford.
Correct.
At some point I told the government that even if you give me land and infrastructure, I still cannot build something that people can afford. Right? So we have a peculiar problem in housing in Nigeria. Most people are under the poverty line, but they need somewhere to live. I don't want to see people on the roads. I need somewhere I don't need a big house. Yes, all of those things have adjusted. And so the question is, is it home ownership? Look, shelter, when we say the basic need is shelter, food, I want something covering my head. Do I necessarily need to own it? Just give me something decent. In the US, they have all these things too, like Section 8 and things that, look, let's just get people into properties.
Yeah.
Why would a family be sitting down, a mother with children, a man with his wife, they don't have anywhere to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
First of all, let's solve that problem. Put me in a cubicle with a roof over my head. Give me that problem. Then, as I get my income better, I'm hoping that maybe in the next few years, step up, get better job, economy is getting better, then I'll move away from there. Someone else will come into that place. I'll go and buy my own first apartment, 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
But, those are things that I think, and that's why I keep asking, why is it this urge that I must own something in Nigeria?
I think for me, the solution is really simple. At the policy level, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Correct.
You see that there is specific policy for housing, and a path to government increasing housing. In some parts of the UK, if any developer wants to build in certain areas, you have to commit to building council housing.
Exactly.
And then as part of the deal, they will give you the land to build what you do. So
it's possible here.
It's possible, but they have problems.
So the cost of developing that social infrastructure is passed on to the people that are willing to pay the overvalued price for the project, and society peters around. So at the policy level, we need to get to the point where we begin to see these policies as impacting on each other at the molecular level. So if you want to increase minimum wage 70,000, that's fine. How do you drive full employment?
Full employment will drive wages up anyways. If that,
Yeah, but then it's also for you to deliver full employment, you need to look at the policy and how it applies to sector. So right now, everybody's focusing on Dangote, refinery, the oil, but the oil sector as a whole, it contributes less to GDP than the housing and construction sector.
Correct.
Housing and construction together is about close to 11% of our gross domestic product. That is huge. Now, everybody involved there is way more than people involved in the oil services, which we call an enclave economy, just in that bubble. If you find a way to trigger a mass social housing event, get people in the community building those houses, earning their pay, create an incentive to get an annuities type structure that gets the PFA to back it on the long term, that keeps the cash coming in and keeps people building, then it becomes a self-sustaining
That's a good
thing.
one.
Yes.
As they're building and PFAs are getting, those guys now enter the what do you call it, the banking system. You track their income. So far as they're making that 70K and taking no more than 20-30K towards whatever they are doing as per their shelter, they will have the incentives to keep working. But then after you do that, you have to go to another project and put everybody there. So it is there has to be a deliberate policy to create mass jobs at the local level that keeps everybody fully engaged. And the income that comes from there gets everybody. And it's not necessarily by government spending money. You don't have to spend a dime. The money is there. It's how you redirect it. So it's about the policy.
Yeah, policies.
You understand? Because you're standing next to a river of opportunities. And like the Egyptians did, you dig your own canal and direct it.
So I mean,
farmland.
which is why our government have problems, taking the canal.
Yes,
the right,
because
the right direction.
because at the policy level, sometimes we tend to look at it from a cash and carry, from a cash-based point of view.
Well, it's a financing problem.
Yeah. So no. If you look at finance from a cash accounting, there's no need cash accounting.
Finance account.
Exactly. If you're doing cash accounting, you're saying, okay, I must have all the cash in place, or the cash is in situ before I can plan.
Yeah.
Or I have a line of sight to the cash before I can plan. But that's not how you look at it. You need to look at it from what is the income earning potential of your population.
That's right.
If you look at that potential, how you get that potential to start working and generating its own cash to keep it is different from how do we raise the money.
Yes, and that would be a good one. Let me ask them specifically. Tinubu's government have had this housing scheme. What was it called? Renewed Hope. Renewed Hope. What are the primary policies of that? I mean, from what I've read, which is limited because I'm not sure where the right report will be, but is primarily a financing scheme looking to finance a portion in for low-income social housing, which I assume typically they'll go through Federal Mortgage Bank and NHF or something, and the other open market developers or independent developers. But what was announced? Was it up to 2 trillion or something? No, maybe not. I think it was even 200 billion.
Billion for okay.
How do they affect these schemes? Are they in effect now?
Okay, from what I know there's the housing fund, there's the mortgage refinance, which has been, they're going under retooling to recruit their products. There's also another social housing something that also. So I think the issue is not that we do not have the MDAs to support these initiatives. I think the issue that everybody looks at is that they need to, how do we fund them? Because if you're looking at it from that, how do we fund them point of view, then everybody knows how do we raise funding in single digits for it to make sense, for those MDAs to fulfill their responsibilities to develop products that suit the market, right?
Okay.
Now, my take on it is that if you look at it from that point of view, there is no, if you want to get funding locally, you have to get the PFAs involved. That's the only um, basket of
Capital.
30-year money
Long-term funds
that's available to do this kind of
and the
projects.
PFAs are
If you
mandated
get,
to invest
yeah,
in low risk.
if you get foreign money involved, especially from a development side of it, given the way the FX is moving, right, it may not be a sustainable solution, at least in the interim. Now, how do you get the PFAs involved? Most less than 3% of their assets are in real estate. Less than 3.
Yeah, very dense.
That's you're not going to make the impact. Abroad and in other climates, the PFAs are involved
Yes.
in that.
Because they have a bonded asset
Yes. So,
rated by an independent agency and floated on a market.
somebody entered to develop that market.
Yeah.
Somebody roll up their sleeves and develop the market. Right now, everybody's looking at CBN has taken the rates up. What are federal government bonds now? What are T-bills now?
Yeah.
Why do I have to stress myself to be doing pro-development when I can easily,
10-20
invest and
something.
earn 20%? Why do I have to hire analysts to do all of that work? Forgetting that, in the long term, if you look at the PAs, the PFAs and the way they are growing, the growth is no longer coming from new intakes of onboarding new customers. That's not where the growth is
From
It's slowing down.
capitalization of the fund.
At some point, the growth will have to come from the capital you deployed. What is your return on that investment?
Yes.
And if you do not begin to build up future annuity that you're going to tap into for the next 20 years, you're going to have a big problem. Because even though we're a young population, not everybody's inside there, and we're going to be aging at some point, right? Where the number of retirees, the money they're taking more than the people that are
Yeah.
so
Funding.
I think a lot of work needs to be done working with the PFAs to incentivize them to hire the people they need at their level to begin to analyze these things and get these things done. Now, the argument can be, hey, why should I be giving mortgages at 10% when the inflation is at 30%? Yes, but inflation at 30% for now, there's no guarantee it's not going to taper down. You understand? So you are doing a long-term investment in real estate and the valuation doesn't go down. It keeps going up. You have annuity, you have your cash flow. So
Real
why don't
estate
you
is a
invest
hedge.
now?
It soaks
Yes,
up that
to
inflation.
build up your cash flow for 10 years time. So we need to have that conversation with them to get involved.
I always ask
23%.
my account officer for that I want my money back. I know how
What
much.
to do with your money?
I know what I'll do. Not just now. I say, look, I worked out how much I will need per day when I'm in retirement.
Yeah.
My fear is that this money, if I have 1 million naira there today, what's the value of that 1 million naira in 10 years? I want to retire in 10 years' time. I don't want to keep doing this. In 10 years' time, what's the value going to be? You give me 1 million, then what would I do with it? Give me my money back. Let me put it in something else. And the reality to what he said is, what's going to happen is people are going to start demanding more from these PFAs. That look, what have you done with the money? Did you just sit down and just put it in treasury for how many years? Yes, it's easy to just say I'll get 20%, right? But people are going to start demanding more. It's going to become a social issue. I think they've seen it too.
Yeah.
To be fair to them, I think they've seen it too, and what are the terms of engagement is what they're struggling with. How do we engage with the government and with the society without losing, the capital that we have, in a structured way? Is the terms of engagement that they're looking at?